Have you always known that you're on a soul path? And have you wondered how to gain real insight into the steps along your own unique journey? Welcome everyone, I'm Sarah Main, and thank you for joining me on Damayanti, the show for your soul. I'm so glad to have you along. Damayanti means peace and calm. Damayanti sheds a light for your soul through the wisdom that shines in the universal language of Sanskrit. Damayanti is the show that speaks to your soul, connects with your soul, and enriches your soul. Join me now on Damayanti, the show for your soul, and be inspired and uplifted by the beautiful light of this profound, timeless wisdom. Welcome everyone, it's lovely to have you along. Welcome to Damayanti, the show for your soul. I'm Sarah Main, and today we're going to be talking about the strength of calmness, the strength of calmness, believe it or not. And, the events in our lives call for us to remain calm and yet strong. And, does calmness and strength go together in your mind, or is there a certain cognitive dissonance? You're either calm or you're strong. And how often do we achieve being calm and strong at the same time? We're going to look at the true nature. We're going to explore the true nature of both. And of course, I'm going to use Sanskrit as the doorway and how they work together, because there's incredible power in being calm and strong. So, firstly, do you want to be strong? What is strength? Let's look at that. So in Sanskrit, I like to go back to the Sanskrit, as you know. I use Sanskrit. Sanskrit's not just a language, it's a doorway to incredible wisdom and clarity. It clarifies your thinking. It clarifies the mind of any unconscious ideas or limitations that we have on the meaning of things. And that the meaning that we hold then actually indicates or determines our feelings and our actions. So meaning is important. This is not just an intellectual exercise. It actually determines how we live our lives. The choices that we make and the actions that we take, they're based on the meanings that we have for things. That's why I go back to the Sanskrit, the universal wisdom of Sanskrit. And Sanskrita means pure and perfectly formed. So it makes sense to me to go back to the pure and perfectly formed wisdom as the starting point. So strength, if you go back to the Sanskrit, strength has three elements to it. There's a power, obviously, fearlessness, and resilience. Power, fearlessness, and resilience. So that's interesting in itself. Sanskrit already indicates that. So what's powerful? How do we become powerful? What do we do with that power and strength when we've acquired it? How do we know that we've acquired it? And then fearlessness. I mean, how do we face our fears? What is fearlessness? And then what's resilience? And so looking at power, strength, another word for it is power. In Sanskrit is balam. And this carries the strength, as we would expect, of strength and power and might and force, and we can recognize that in the physical world. Then we have abhayam, which means fearlessness. Now here the word, it's abhayam. That little is not a nothing, it's very important. I'll come back to that in a minute. So abhayam, and that's the strength and power to face one's fears. It gives us the bahayam, the fear. Bahayam, it's abhayam, the strength and power to face one's fears and to do and say the right thing despite those fears. And then literally abhayam means without fear, fearlessness. Without fear in English, fearlessness. So in Sanskrit, that is actually a measure of pure consciousness. It's a measure of pure awareness. And that's carried by that short syllable ah, which means not. But one of the meanings for it is not. But this ah at the beginning actually protects us from the fear. Hence, abhayam, fearlessness. Abhyasa actually means, and that's the word for resilience, and it actually, in its one of its main meanings, is sustained, disciplined practice, repetition, repeatedly returning again and again to the discipline, to the practice, to your work, despite challenges and failure. And that sort of disciplined practice requires whoever it is that's performing, doing that work, the trainee, let's call it the trainee, requires the trainee to return again and again and again and again, sustained, disciplined practice. It's not about achieving the goal necessarily, it's that action of returning again and again and again to the practice. And throughout that process, you will experience so-called failure, but you return again and again and again. And that builds up resilience, hence it means resilience as well. Returning again and again. And one of the meanings, certainly in English, about resilience is to bounce back, literally to return back to your proper shape. That's what resilience indicates, certainly in English. So that's strength. We have the power, the might, the force, right? We have fearlessness. So that's being able to move through our fears and act and say and do the right thing despite them. And we're literally protected in abhayam. We're literally protected from the fears through a measure of pure consciousness, that little syllable ah. And then we have resilience, which is returning again and again and literally stretching, coming back into proper shape again and again and again. That's sort of all contained within those meanings of resilience. So it doesn't matter if you're stretched and pulled, you're challenged, you come back again and again and again. So there's some of the meanings in resilience. So even just consider that now in terms of your understanding of those words and how that may have actually opened up your thinking a bit. Now we come back to calmness. So the second part of this is calmness. Do you want to remain calm? Do you want to stay in that higher energy, that higher vibration when we're experiencing some sort of reaction to something? We've got a tendency, a personal tendency, we all have them. Sometimes they're referred to as dark shadows or the darker shadow. We have lighter shadows and we have darker shadows. So we have personal tendencies that tend to be limitations that we work with, some of our life lessons, our life challenges, and triggers, just the inevitable triggers. The only slight gripe I have with the word trigger that's become quite common these days and quite popular in use, and I use it as well, is that trigger tends to sort of unconsciously put the responsibility on the trigger. It puts it outside of yourself. So you're then the victim, you're being triggered. Doesn't work like that. You're responsible for all your reactions. So it doesn't matter what the trigger is, you're still responsible. It's how we respond to those triggers. Do we respond or do we react? So do we want to stay calm when we're reacting? Our tendencies are coming up, our innate tendencies that we have, and these triggers are setting us off, or we're being set off by the trigger. Or do we want to just respond? Do we want to have that moment where we can choose our response? So that they're all contained in this idea of being calm. And in Sanskrit, calm, one of the words means like repose, shanti or shanta. I've talked about that a lot in other shows because that's a common word. It appears for people who do yoga, you're probably familiar with the word shanti. It means peace. So calmness comes from shanti, shanta, meaning peace. In the Oxford English Dictionary, repose means a state of rest or sleep or tranquility. Now, I would contend in this situation that the calmness we need is not sleep, far from it. It is an element of tranquility, but there's a strength in it because calmness can often imply in our minds, we infer that calmness is weak. But it isn't. Calmness is actually strong. That's why I have linked calm and strength together. So one other meaning of calmness in Sanskrit is freedom from the wind and the waves. Obviously, like the sea is becalmed. So it's free of wind and waves. And I liked that because we experience wind and waves within our mind and our heart all the time, well, some of the time anyway, the ups and downs and whatever, the energy within is a bit turbulent. So calmness can also apply there. In Sanskrit, that's nirvata. Nir means free from, and vata means wind, blowing wind. So nirvata means free from that blowing wind. And we can take that at a subtle level, an emotional level, a non-physical level within ourselves. We're free of that. It's that type of calm. So just posing that question again, challenging any ideas we might have, does calm and strength go together? Just think about that. Do they go together? Now with some new, fresh light on the meanings from Sanskrit, we can say, oh, maybe they don't. Obviously in real life challenges, there are times where we have remained calmed and we've been incredibly strong and able to respond. And that's responsible, able to respond, responsible, able to respond. We've been responsible, we've been able to respond. And often it's because of this calmness, and there's a space and we can choose our response. But it's useful to see whether the mind is cancelling one or other of those out and saying, no, they don't go together. And that's happening at a subconscious level for us. The mind's already tricking us, saying, no, you're either calm, which means like sleep, or your strength and might, and that doesn't go with calmness. So it's interesting, you need to actually address any subconscious tricks the mind plays, that calmness and strength absolutely go together. Real calmness is the space to choose your response and be able to respond. And that's an indication of real strength, and face our fears and act and say the right thing despite any of those challenges from our fears, and stay calm and move through any of the triggers we may have, which are the limits from our tendencies, the sort of shadow side of ourselves. We all have it and we all have to work through them. I mean, I do all the time, and I have tricks and tips of how I work through things like that. It's just part of being human. It's natural. We all have those different parts in our nature. So we'll take a break now, and then we're going to come back and talk about remaining calm and strong, being strong and calm. So we'll see you soon. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Damayanti, the show for your soul. Today, we're talking about being calm and strong, really the strength of having calmness and strength together. And we need that in our lives. Inevitably, the challenges occur. And rather than just being caught in instinctual, they're not even instinctual, they're just our limited reactions. You know, they are instinctual insofar as we all have these tendencies, and they're like our life's lessons, our life challenges. Like we come with them and we work with them. They can be challenging at times, but it's how we grow as a person is being aware of them and working with them and sort of honoring them in a way, because they're often our greatest teachers, I find. Not always comfortable, but always saying, all right, what was the lesson in that? What was the trigger? And learning to be aware, the higher awareness. So that trigger causes you to raise your awareness, and that's raising your consciousness, raising your vibration, raising your energy, so that you're not necessarily moved or triggered and therefore limited, because when we're triggered, we're limited. And we are an infinite being. All the scriptures, the wisdom traditions are reminding us of this all the time. We're a limited, we are a limitless, yeah, that's a slip of the tongue, a limitless, infinite, sovereign being. And as such, the responsibility is with us to have that steadiness, have that connection within ourselves, to then choose how to respond. And inevitably, naturally, it's part of the design. We will choose what is right, what is true, what is good, what is uplifting for ourselves and for those around us. It's a natural response in the human being that if we are connected with ourselves, with our natural, innate soul, our divine spark, our true self, our pure self, we will choose what is good, what is right, what is uplifting, and what brings people together, what unites, excuse me, what unites, all those things. It's natural. And that's how we grow as a person, and our families flourish and thrive and operate in a strong and unified way, and our communities the same, and our nations and humanity. But it comes back to that connection with yourself. So calmness is so important, and it is a place of strength, that connection with yourself. It's not weakness. So let's look at the Sanskrit for a minute again. Balam goes with prana, actually going a bit further into the wisdom that's using Sanskrit as a further doorway into wisdom. Balam, which is the word for strength, one of the words for strength and power, it comes from strengthening life force. In life force, or in the breath of life, prana, we'll find real strength. And think about that. The power, when we want to enhance our energy, when we want to pick ourselves up if we're feeling listless, we often take a deep breath. And that breath of life, literally the breath that we're breathing all the time, animates us and gives us more energy. If we want to change our attitude, we'll often take a deep breath and shake ourselves around and choose a more positive, better attitude. So in a very, very simple way, that is an indication of the connection between strength and power and life force, prana. And Sanskrit, as amazing as it is actually indicating that if you want to find real strength, it's not just in lifting weights in the gym, it's in being connected and mastery of the life force. And that's not controlling the breath necessarily, but it's mastery of the life force. So enhancing and wielding life-giving powers is one way of thinking about developing strength. So, and there are tons of stories about warriors and heroes and villains who give life and take life, and they illustrate in some way the real and proper use of strength. So who has the greater power? Just think about this, the one who takes life or the one who can give it? It's good to ask questions like that. So abhayam, fearlessness, it's not headstrong bravado. It's the strength and power to face one's fears, the bhayam, and do and say the right thing regardless of those fears. Keep moving through them. And then there's such precious wisdom in that idea, that description of that short syllable that measure of pure consciousness, protecting us from the fears as we move through them. Fearlessness. And the consciousness is the awareness, the wakefulness. And it stops us and it protects us from that paralyzing fear. And then finally, the resilience, which is returning again and again. So the challenges can feel like it feels like we're being pulled out of shape because of the challenges. And resilience is coming back and back and back. And where we're coming back to is that center within ourselves, being centered. So bringing it all together, you are an infinite being, a sovereign being. That's who you are. My teacher, my spiritual teachers, they said you always start with the absolute. You don't start with the limits, you start with the absolute. So he always, at the beginning of meetings or lectures or whatever he did, he always started with, you are the absolute, you are an infinite being. You are created from God. It always started from purity, from being limitless. And then he would speak about whatever the topic was. And when I started my book, when I had the first part of my book and I had a blank page in front of me, what was I going to type? I remembered that, and I started with a statement reminding the reader and reminding myself that we are limitless. In our true nature, we are limitless. So you are an infinite being, a sovereign being. And calmness, true calmness, coming from Shanti, which means peace, is a connection with your soul, your source, your divine spark. Calmness is the basis and the source of true strength. So power, fearlessness, and resilience is the threefold nature of true strength. Power, resilience, and fearlessness is the threefold nature of true strength. So, and remember what we've learnt from Sanskrit, that Balam is life enhancing, comes from the breath of life, that Abhayam springs from facing our fears and acting despite them, and Abhyasa is flexible, resilient, and able to bounce back from whatever life throws at us, and that we can keep going and stay on course. So what does calmness and strength mean for us in practice? Well, firstly, Shanti, get centered, steady, and calm. This is the essential basis. And next, think of any daily interactions with others. And in some simple way, practice Balam, something that is life-enhancing, that improves, uplifts, and expands. Remember the breath of life, the life force, that's real strength. It's not about being tough. It's about real strength in that way. So offer a simple, kind word, help with a parcel. And then Abhayam, in some fear or anxiety comes up, remember we're talking about fearlessness, and it may stop us from doing and saying the right thing. Remember Abhayam, come back to yourself and move through it and do and say the right thing despite that, and do it with love and kindness. The calmness will mean that your words won't harm. And then Abhyasa, I beg your pardon, is resilience. And that allows us to keep coming back and back and back to doing and saying the right thing. So fall still, be centered and calm within, and then attend with life-enhancing strength to the matter in hand at the time, directly in front of you, and do that which is uplifting, to do it to the best of your ability, and overcome any challenges with fearlessness and the resilience to keep going. So act with calmness and strength, and practice it when you're not being triggered and challenged. Practice giving your full attention from a centered and calm place, and any concerns and worries that come up, keep acting despite them. And this will develop calmness and strength, and it'll be there when you need it most. When the triggers and the challenges in life happen, trust me, this is what I practice. When the triggers and challenges happen in life and the difficulties, that calmness and that strength, that connection with yourself is there, and it will be there to serve you. And then you can serve others and serve the situation the best, and that uplifts for everyone. So good luck with that. Act with calmness and strength. So if you want to find out more about Damayanti and what I'm talking about Sanskrit, you can go to my website. That's damayanti.store, damayanti.store, DAMAYANTI.store. And you can learn more. There's a book there, and there's links to how you can purchase my book. And I'd like to finish with a bit of Sanskrit, which is the universal prayer for peace. So in heaven's peace, peace in the space between, on earth peace, on the waters peace, in plants peace, in trees peace, peace in all powers, in spirit peace, peace in everything, peace alone peace. Peace, peace, peace. Om Dhyao Shanti, Antarikshan Shanti, Prithvi Shanti, Apa Shanti, Oshadhaya Shanti, Vanaspataya Shanti, Vishwe Deva Shanti, Brahma Shanti, Sarvang Shanti, Shanti Reva Shanti, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you for spending time with me on Damayanti, the show for your soul. To find out more about Damayanti, or to get my book, Conscious Confidence, Use the Wisdom of Sanskrit to Find Clarity and Success, or to purchase my range of beautiful spiritual jewelry, go to my website, damayanti.store. That's DAMAYANTI.store. Damayanti.store. See you next time.